All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, before I get started, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. To you I say shalom. This is the brother Yeshaya coming at you again through spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. And in this lesson, I'm pretty much going to entitle it, For He is the Former of All Things. Okay? And that's pursuant to Jeremiah, the 51st chapter, and the 19th verse. I believe it's also in Jeremiah, the 10th chapter, if I'm not mistaken. But pretty much going into this article that I have pulled up right here, came across this, but it says how black people created every music genre in America. Okay, and you know, Jake being the face, practically the face of America when it comes to talent, music, sports, you know what I'm saying? Whatever there is that requires skill and talent, you already know Jake is there, at the forefront of it, especially here in America. I mean, wherever Jake is at, Jake is the best at it, at whatever he does in that region, right? But pursuant to this, especially with music, um, I mean, for me, this is not no mystery because it's almost obvious, that Jake would be pretty much the people that created all this music that we see, all the music genres, whether it's rock, whether it's rap, hip hop, Latin music, uh, country music. You know what I'm saying? Jake inspired, or if not created, uh, most, if not all, of these music genres, right? But it says, I'm gonna continue reading this. It says America's love for black culture, but not black people, has erased African Americans' role in pioneering American music, right? And that's Esau, man. Always claiming things for himself, even when it comes to inventions, all right? Just for example, the refrigerator. The refrigerator was created by Jake, right? But Esau took the credit for it, you know. And there's a lot of these inventions that Jake created, but Esau would take the credit for it because ultimately they were uh, those Jakes that created it at the time were property to these slave masters, right? But I'm gonna read this. Read a little bit into this, and then I'm gonna skip down to this diagram that they have, and I found it interesting. So let's just go ahead and jump right into this thing. But it says black people created nearly every major music genre in America, yet black people are underrepresented in industry leadership and awards, right? And that all reminds me of, as a matter of fact, let me go ahead and get it. And I don't want to make this too long, right? I don't want to make this too long because I don't really got a whole lot to say about this. But I'm gonna get this real quick. This is Sirach 12 and verse 12. It says, "Set him not, no, not that Salakia. What am I talking about? Um, Wisdom of Solomon. That's what I was looking for. Wisdom of Solomon 5 and 1. It says, it says, Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him." Who are those that have afflicted us? Starting first and foremost with Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, right, and the rest of the nations. But it says, then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him, and made no account of his labors. Right, and that's exactly what we see right here with this. Where's it at? Right here. With this, when it comes to this, with the music, right? Giving credit to to um, those responsible of creating this type of music, whatever type of music it might be. You know, if they're so-called black, they try to shun away from giving credit, to the originators, right? And ultimately, if it's popular among Edomites, they'll change the face, in order to give these damn crackers something to listen to, because as we know, that hatred that Esau has, it runs deep. The scriptures talk about how he kept his wrath forever, right? A perpetual hatred, you know. So Esau's hatred, has driven him to pretty much take away a lot of credit that should be given to Jake, because Jake, without Jake, the scriptures talk about how Jake is the salt in the earth. As a matter of fact, let me go to that. Matthew 5 and verse 13. But it says, "Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men." So when it says you are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It's pretty much going into this truth, right? Because this truth is what we have, right, to give to the planet Earth. You know what I'm saying? For us to operate in righteousness, and this is what we gotta, show before the earth. That's our saltiness, right? This wisdom. But even when it comes to carnal things, like we're going into the music, we have, saying the best flavor. We have the most skill, the most everything, because really, me and the brother Yuan, we went into this one of his videos, how Jake's senses are heightened, whether it's taste, smell, hearing. We're very our listening and our imagination is very high level compared to these other nations. That's the reason why you get a lot of these superhero movies and comic books and you know a lot of these like um, pretty much next level type of imaginatory things. They really be coming from Jake, right? And some of them, they be taken from the Bible, biting from the Bible and whatnot. But a lot of things, Jake be coming up with, and a lot of them be going under the radar because, how Esau be, snubbing Jake, trying to, keep us down, or just stealing our invention from us, right? But we are the salt of the earth, when it comes to dances, like I said, dances, music, just the culture of Jake, man, is just, uh, 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 it's something that, will has these Edomites, entranced, and amazed at the fact that how Jake is so skilled and so talented and has all this flavor, man. But they can't, man. Like everything that Esau's got, he took it. He's the ultimate culture vulture, man. He claims to be everybody under the sun. But when you look at his true, his true history, his true heritage, man, it's nothing but caveman shit. This man doesn't have a culture, man, which is why he has to go actively seek out uh, 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 things to add to his repertoire, right? But anyway, let me go back. Let me read some more of this article. But it says black people created nearly every major music genre in America. Yet black people are underrepresented in industry leadership and awards. It's been this way since the beginning of the music industry. At the core of this phenomenon is a paradox. America's admiration for black culture, right? They're amazed and enthralled with the abilities that Jake has, right, and his creativeness. But it says um, America's admiration for black culture has always coincided with its blatant disdain for black people, right? Just straight racism, right? But it says millions of black people, or black Americans, Salakia, have to navigate a society that shamelessly sees so much value in their creations, yes, so little value in their well being. And nowhere is this unsettling truth more evident than in the history of American music. Right, so as we read, Wisdom of Solomon 5 and 1, right? Then that man, the righteous man shall stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him and made no account of his labors, right? So Jake hasn't been taken accounted for of his labors, the inventions, right? The shaping of music, the creating of new music, and their influence, over those genres, is very underrated. You know, we're not being given the true acknowledgement that we should be given. Everything is made to suppress Jake, right? That's Psalms, matter of fact, Psalm 62 and 4. Psalm 62 and verse 4, it says, they only consult to cast him down from his excellency. They delight in lies, they bless with their mouth, but they curse inwardly, Selah. So when you read this in the NLT, it says they plan to topple me from my high position. So they see Jake, getting above themselves. That's what Esau be thinking, getting uppity, and now they want to bring you down, right? They want to cast you down to the earth. They want to topple you from your high position. It says they delight in telling lies about me. They praise me to my face, but curse me in their hearts. Right? That's Esau, man. Right? Tell you good job, all this and that. Even when you go to these plantations, man, these workplaces, they do the exact same thing on a lower level though. So let me see. Let me go back. So it says countless scenarios from music history demonstrates how disassociating. Hold on, how do you say this? Dissociating black talent from black people abets systemic racism. The banjo, for instance, is the foundation of folk and country music. White musicians learned to play the African instrument from enslaved black people. So the banjo doesn't even belong to you Edomites. Every time you think of a banjo, you think of a redneck, just plucking some strings on this instrument. But really, this is an African instrument, and probably Jake made it up when they were in Africa. So white musicians learned to play the African instrument from enslaved black people. It says then, also Salakia, they then used what the enslaved people taught them to perform coon songs and minstrel shows that mocked and belittled black people. In the 1920s, some of the best black musicians were able to play jazz at Harlem's Cotton Club, one of New York's most famous nightclubs. Salakia, and one thing that caught me right here where it says they performed coon songs. That all goes back to Psalm 62 and 4, right? They only consult to cast him down from his excellency. They will use Jake's talent to belittle them. right? They'll use Jake's talent to belittle Jake, right? The only consult to cast you down from your excellency, Jake. But where was I? It says at the same time, only white people were allowed inside the clubs as patrons. In the 1950s, doo wop or doo wop became so popular in New York that young Italian New Yorkers created their own doo wop groups in their neighborhoods. Black people were not allowed in these neighborhoods lest they be beaten or chased out by the same group of white youths that sang covers of black doo wop songs on the corners. And some of the greatest R&B, rock and roll, and soul musicians played to sold out venues across the Jim Crow South. Exactly, man. So it was all Jake, man. Now, even the Italians, say young Italian New Yorkers, some of them were Jakes. Well, I believe a lot of them were Jakes at that time that were coming in, right? Um, but they had, they were deceived off of that colorism. But it says, and some of the greatest R&B, rock and roll, which are all Jake, soul musicians played to sold out venues across the Jim Crow South, right? And I think I did hear a story or two about that. Good rock and roll and soul musicians, how they would be chased out certain, sunset towns and stuff like that around that time period and around them Jim Crow era, that Jim Crow era. I believe I seen it also in that movie. Brothers watched that movie, James Brown, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it showed that too in that movie. But anyway, it says as concert goers danced and sang, ropes separated the black ones from the white ones. Not to mention that some of these musicians weren't even allowed to enter these venues through the main doors, and upon exiting, sometimes hurried home in fear for their lives. Right? I think I seen that in the movie too. I said I believe it was that movie, uh, James Brown, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it might be that one. But it says the story of American music, past and present, is littered with these contradictory circumstances. These days, despite a strong black presence in music, black people are underrepresented in music industry leadership. Black people make up 13% of artists and musicians in the industry, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But black people in the industry argue that the higher up in the industry one goes, the less representation there is. Right? So there's a glass ceiling. With everything, there's always a glass ceiling that you Jakes are just not going to be able to surpass. Esau put that glass ceiling there, right? And you ain't going above it. You try to go above your station, this man will bring you down. But it says when black people do make it into executive roles, it is often in departments overseeing urban programs or covering the genres of rap, hip hop, and R&B. They argue, right? Just put them and just limit pretty much, yeah, the glass ceiling. Just limit you into a certain position, and that's it, right? Oh, you so-called dark skin. Well, you know what? We need some representation in the R&B. Even though you like country music, even though you wanna do country music, no, you're gonna be doing R&B. You're gonna be doing rap. You're gonna be doing this, right? All the and just a form for Esau to stereotype and categorize people in a box. But anyway, let's see. Let me go ahead and hold on. Actually, let me read this. It says fans and professionals alike point to a blatant disrespect shown towards black artists, whose sounds and images propel the industry. Every year, for instance, critics call out the Grammy Awards for its lack of black nominees and winners. In fact, the program's 62-year history, less than a quarter of awards for non-genre specific categories like Album of the Year or Best New Artist have gone to black people. White men top of white men top the list of most Grammy wins overall. as well as in categories like Best Rap Album and Best Jazz Album, Instrumental Album. Fans are constantly outraged by Grammy snubs and upsets. And it's all by design, right? As I've been going into, it's all by design. But it says of widely celebrated black songs and albums to less popular or less critically acclaimed white ones. Yet black people are either directly or heavily responsible for the creation of almost every major genre in America, including those currently dominated by white artists and executives such as country, rock, and electronic dance music (EDM). To demonstrate this, I cross-referenced the top 10 songs from the Billboard Top Single charts from 1941 to 2020. Okay, so that pretty much just goes into his research. But this is a diagram, right? This is a family tree of American music. So it says the ones colored in, it says created largely by black people. The ones just circled that's not colored in, it says heavily inspired, influenced by black people. Right? So you got folk that's at the top, which folk just means music of the certain people, right? Of whatever people in that town or whatever at that time. So it all starts with folk music, right? Then you got European classical, which was Jake, show tunes, which was Jake Coon songs, which were Jake. But Esau had Jake play those songs, right? Sentimental ballads is Jake. And I'm reading it from the left to the right. But it says ragtime, stride piano, jazz, of course, is Jake. Gospel, spiritual, soul music, Jake. Funk, Motown sound, disco, EDM. I mean, you can see it all Jake. Even the ones that has a circle is heavily influenced by Jake. All this, the blues, country folk, R&B, race music, doo wop or doo wop, rock and roll. Uh, so yeah, man. Now, like I says, some of them are just heavily inspired or influenced, right? So you can see that Jake has a hand in everything. Jake is the former of all things, man. But it says this research shows that nearly all American music genres came from black gospel and the blues. The blues, which is a combination of early black spiritual plantation songs and folk music, is a very flexible genre. The blues song structure, chord progression, scales, and bar formation are very easy to build on. Thus, a multitude of genres, including jazz, country, soul, rock, and R&B, sprang from the blues. Despite black people creating these sounds, racist power structures and systematic inequalities deemed the original work in these areas race music. It says, while it's like it says, until white artists co-opted them and made them mainstream. Right. Pretty much some of them would take the songs and put their own twist to it. They were blaming Elvis for the same thing. But Elvis, he was a Jake, and he would take some old songs too, but he would actually make it better. But it says, indeed, white artists took the genres and ran with them, sometimes never looking back. In some cases, white people monopolized the commercialization of these sounds so much that they quickly became their mainstream voices and faces in Hollywood, radio, and television. Today, rock is ruled by all white bands. Some of the biggest country acts, like the Dixie Chicks and Lady Antebellum, proudly named themselves after eras in which Southern white people owned black ones. Only recently deciding it looked racist. Of course, wow. But it says, and techno EDM has become the go-to music for European raves and the predominantly white celebrity DJs. Similarly, these days, I guess what's that techno? That's that Skrillex shit. You know, something that has no damn rhythm because these motherfuckers can't dance. Motherfuckers over there looking like they're doing Charlie Brown, the Charlie Brown or whatever it's called. But it says, similarly these days, one might be hard pressed to find even a handful of black people swing dancing at the local meetup for jazz enthusiasts, even though it started as a black dance for black music. Man, I'm telling you, man, these crackers are definitely shaped. I mean, we shaped. Talking about us Jakes, you know, we shaped how music works, but Esau has definitely erased a lot of the history and shaped the minds of the people to believe a certain viewpoint. See, but this is Esau, man. This is the reason why when you go into um, Sirach, the 12th chapter. Let me see. And let me see, what was it on? I think the 10th verse. Yeah, it says, never trust thine enemy, for like his iron rusted, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust has not been altogether wiped away. Here's the point. Set him not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And if thou at the last remember my words, and thou at the last remember my words, and be pricked therewith. Right. So never trust your enemy, Jake. I mean, I know back then whenever a lot of this was going on. I mean, it still happens now. This is why we warn Jake to never trust your enemy. But even back then, Jake was under the hands of their oppressor. So there's nothing really they can do about it. But we see the history of this man and what he has done. Everything he has done, he has stolen, man. There's nothing that's originally his. He just takes shit. Right? He's the ultimate cultural vulture, man. This man has no culture. All right. So I want to read just one more article, and that'll be it. Feel load. Right. So this one is from the Cavalier Daily. It says on repeat, black artists reshaping the future of music. Right. So back in the other one, it says it gives you on how black people, so-called black people, uh, have shaped music in America, right, over the years. Because it's not just black people, it even goes into Latino music, right? When you go right here, because even Latino music, I don't even know if it has it right here. Bear with me. Well, I don't have it right here. But even Latino music, so-called black people made that too. Had a hand in that. Oh, Slovakia. Damn ads, man. Or pop-ups. I stand that shit. But anyway, it says black artists reshaping the future of music. So even now, even currently, right now we're in the so-called worst generation there is. Jake is at the this is the worst generation that has ever existed. And even then, Jake is still, you know, leading the music industry, leading the sports industry, leading all these industries, into newer innovations, right? But let me get this. Let me read this. Um, this says these artists are bending and redefining genres on their own terms. It says black artists have been marginalized from the mainstream for decades, despite being the originators of nearly all popular music genres. Industry gatekeeping and systemic barriers have historically sidelined their contributions, even as their innovations continue to define popular music. Exactly. So you know that there's a systemic plan to try to, like it says, it's trying to bar you from reaching certain glass ceilings. They want to keep you in a certain genre. They want to keep you in a certain box, right? But it says this past year, however, saw a major shift. Now you can do your own music, right? But what I'm saying is, if you want to join the industry, and become famous and gain all this wealth and money, off of doing music, you have to sell out, which means you gotta play by their rules, right? But anyway, it says this past year, however, saw a major shift. Hip hop and R&B, currently two of the most popular genres in the United States, made up an estimated 25.3% of audio streaming sales, reaffirming that black creativity remains the foundation of popular music, right? So Jake, man, without Jake, America will go belly up. Without Jake, America will go belly up, which is why Esau don't want to let us go. I mean, now he has AI, so now he really don't need Jake, but even then, without Jake, you know, there'll be no flavor, man. There'll be no innovations. There'll be Esau will still be living in the year, I don't know, when the Rome fall 300, or even after Rome fell. These crackers went into the caves. They had to be introduced to civilization, into a they had to be trained out of that beast-like state, that caveman-like state. They had to be trained, man. And who trained them? We did, right? When I say we, I mean the Moors, right? Jake had to instill some type of civilized mindset onto these damn devils, man, because that's how far gone they were during that time period of 1,000 years. This man was in the caves. This man was in the rocks, right? Job, the 30th chapter speaks on that. But anyway, going back, um, it says that's pretty much it, though. That's pretty much it on this, actually. Yeah, I mean that was. It doesn't really go into much. It kind of just starts listing a bunch of songs and stuff. But that was pretty much it, man. Jacob's the form of all things, man. We're the greatest people on the planet Earth, man. This is something else to add onto our list of accomplishments, I guess you could say, in the hell. But further adding to the point how we are the greatest people. When you read in Genesis, right, whenever the two sons were born unto Rachel. Let me get that. When she went to inquire of the Lord, Salaki, I spelled nations wrong. All right, right here, Genesis 25. Oh, not Rachel, it's Rebecca, Salakia. So when Rebecca went to inquire of the Lord, this is what happened. Um, Genesis 25 and 22, it says, "And the children struggled together within her, and she said, If it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord Yahweh, and the Lord Yahweh said unto her, Two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger." Right, so when you read down, what's it say? "And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb." So we read that the elder shall serve the younger, right? The elder shall serve the younger. It says, and the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came out his brother, or came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Esau. I mean, Salakia. His name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 60 years old when she bare them. Right, and that was that what happened right there. Him holding on to Esau's heel, or Jacob holding on to Esau's heel, was a representation how once this man goes down, we got next. You know, that's Second Ezra 6 and 9. Right, Esau is the end of the world. Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. That's what that represented, right? And we see in this now, you know, with Esau's downfall, we're about to see our uprising. But going back to the point, in verse 23, it says, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. So ultimately, Esau's going to be serving us in the kingdom of heaven, right? But the point being how we are stronger than them in every sense, right? Of course, Esau has the blessing of the sword right now, so there's nothing we can do about that. But we got the Lord, you know what I'm saying? We're part of the Most High's right hand, so the right hand is gonna fight for us. You see, and the right hand, as we know, is stronger than the left. So there you go. You see, but even in the carnal sense, you know, we are physically stronger, mentally stronger. You know, Esau can't take no hell. As soon as the slightest chance of the slightest whiff of hell, you know, the motherfucker starts to think of the worst, man. Committing suicide and crashing out. We're the greatest musicians. We're the greatest sports players, artists, singers, you name it. You see, so that was pretty much it, though. I'm gonna go ahead and close it out. I pray this lesson was edifying. So I'm gonna close it out by giving our praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachak Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing His word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Until the next time, I'm gonna say Shalom, Kwam, and Sha'Allah.